Grab some coffee, a Mountain Dew, maybe both. A storm is brewing. The Brainstorm. Welcome to The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike.
Welcome to The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. Man, over the past number of weeks, Mike, we've put together a ton of content. I know we've had some clients on and we had a Chamber of Commerce on, talk about the chamber business and all the things that they're doing at a Chamber of Commerce, which is great networking opportunity. But you here with Matt and Mike's obviously my business partner and colleague here. Mike, we got a good show today.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's a good show. We have some friends of ours, Cavanaugh and Thickens law firm. They're also a client, and they've been doing some great stuff in the legal industry now, Mike, for many years. And so we have Eric Cavanaugh with us. Thanks for being on with us, Eric.
Thanks for having us.
Yep.
Glad to be here.
And we got one of his colleagues, Nick, and Nick handles the workers' comp side of personal injury, which I know they're kind of associated, which we talked a little bit about that off air. Nick, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And so we're going to have a great show just today about just the legal industry, law firms and legal industry, how do you run a law firm, and it's not unlike a lot of small businesses when you're talking about boutique, but Cavanaugh Thickens is more statewide and a little bit larger law firm. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So I really appreciate it. So we're excited. We're going to jump right in. So Eric, explain to us what it's really like kind of managing and running a law firm like your size.
Well, like you said, Matt, it's like any other business. It's it bears a lot of similarities, although we're doing different things. And most businesses, I think at their very core, want to help people, and that's what we try to do every day. And but at the same time, we've got, in addition to lawyers helping people, we've got staff in the form of paralegals and legal assistants, and we've got a business to run.
Right.
So we have payroll, we have people taking vacations, we have just the normal people making copies and everything. So it bears a lot of similarities to just any other business from that standpoint.
So on a daily basis, obviously, different attorneys within your firm are doing a little bit different things. But for the most part, when it comes to you and your business partner and your right-hand people within your law firm, I'm sure it's just full of, on a daily basis, I'm sure it's full of like client meetings and depositions and even all the way down to HR types of things.
Well, yeah, and it's fortunately my business partner Joe Thickens handles most of our day-to-day operational stuff. I like to say Joe is the brains behind us. That's not my strong suit. Is dealing with sort of the day-to-day, the mechanics of the firm. But yeah, in addition, as you've said, in addition to being a business owner, we have a lot going on just being lawyers and helping people, and our days are filled with taking new client calls, dealing with current clients, handling those cases, making sure their cases move effectively. And I tell people all the time, you come in and there's no such thing as quick and speedy justice. And so the law system overall is a very slow, grueling process, and just trying to keep a client's case moving sometimes is in and of itself a job. But yeah, our days are filled with a lot of different activities outside of just running a business.
Awesome. Hey, let's step back and talk a little bit about kind of the genesis of the law firm. Like how did it start? What type of cases did you handle it when you first started, and how does it look today?
We've grown a lot. When Joe and I started, it was just he and I, literally just he and I. Opened our doors and had a couple of cases. Fortunate to right off the bat have a little bit of business, but really nothing. And since then, we've added quite a few staff people. We're now have gone from 2 lawyers to 4 lawyers. I think we have some more expansion coming. We're getting ready to build an office, so we're excited about the growth that we're experiencing. But how we really got started is Joe and I worked at the same law firm. We were both doing defense work for a local Columbia law firm, and a lot of reasons involved in our leaving. Most of them really don't matter, but really at the heart of it, we both wanted to be doing our own thing, which is great. But most importantly, he and I both are people people lawyers, people. I like dealing with people. It's important to me, from what I used to do to what I do now. When you're doing the defense side of a case, you don't often get the satisfaction of having helped someone. And these days, at least you can put a name with a face, and most of the time you're hoping that you do a good enough job for them that they're willing to throw their arms around your neck and say thank you, and that really means something. We grateful to be where we are, and are growing. And Nick, who's sitting here with us today, has just joined us a few weeks ago, so we're excited. Comp is a new area. Workers' comp is a new area for us.
Okay.
But largely we do personal injury. We represent people who have been hurt through the negligence or fault of another. We do handle some other type cases, but that's really what we do, and enjoy helping people.
Awesome. So Nick, what's the first few weeks been like for you?
Oh, it's been great. So I have a similar background as Eric. I actually came from a large multi-state defense firm representing workers' compensation carriers exclusively in those type of matters. And it's just been a really unique transition going and flipping to the other side, because I've had the unique opportunity to actually put a face with an actual client, whereas representing a lot of insurance adjusters, insurance companies, I've developed relationships with adjusters that I'd never even met on the other side. So it's just been a lot more of a unique experience, a lot more just fun experience, really, just for those reasons. So
yeah,
Sounds like you guys have a real personal relationship with your clients, and obviously, Erica, you've told me this before, that you just really like helping people. And so when people have been injured in any type of way, it's a real personal thing anyway, right? I mean, it's very personal.
Well, it is. And I mean, it's important to remember we run a business, but yes, I mean, it is personal, and you have to understand that those people have been through something that they weren't expecting to go through. They've been put in a place that they did not see, did not foresee, and they don't really know how to deal with it. Some of them have come to us and they've had prior claims, and they understand the process and how it works. But most of who we see, most of the clients we represent, have never had anything like this happen to them, and it really turns their life upside down. So it's important for us to make them feel comfortable, make them feel like we care about them, and we do, and let them know that we're there to do the heavy lifting, and that there is light at the end of the rainbow.
Right, right. Yeah, I would. I liked what you said. You said that they're going through something they never expected to go through. Right? You don't foresee. You certainly don't want to have to go through something that's catastrophic or horrific as a major vehicle accident. That's for sure. Or in your case, Nick, a major work accident. In that case, so I can definitely understand that. Having a relationship with Eric and Joe and Nick and Steve has really taught me a lot, Mike, about just the law industry, the legal industry. I've had a lot of conversations with them in order to help them market their firm the best way possible from a messaging standpoint. Hey, we're here with Cavanaugh and Thickens, and we're looking forward to asking them a number of more questions when we come back. So thanks for listening to The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. Welcome back to The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. Man, we put in a ton of content. You can find that content, subscribe to our podcast at thebrainstormradio.com. You can listen to us live on the radio on Mondays from 9 to 10 a.m. on 100.7 The Point. You can also stream that same content at thebrainstormradio.com on Mondays from 9 to 10. You can also go to our Facebook page and the Brainstorm Radio and ask us any questions you want to, as we'll answer a ton of those business building questions. So thanks for listening to The Brainstorm. Today, we have some friends of ours with Cavanaugh and Thickens, some clients and great friends, and we're asking them a ton of questions regarding their law firm and how you run a law firm, what it takes to run a law firm, what it takes on a day-to-day basis. You might find that it might resonate with very different types of industries and different types of business as far as the business operations and the ownership and the day-to-day stress of running a business. and dealing with people and different personalities. And in their case, they have to deal with injuries. And so I'm getting ready to jump in, Eric, if you will. I want to ask you, tell me all your practice areas and kind of who handles those practice areas and any nuances with those particular practice areas, if you will.
Well, largely what we focus on is, as you mentioned, Matt, is injuries, injury-related law or litigation, so to speak. So personal injury lawyers is really what we categorize ourselves as, but that's not all we focus on. We have a good criminal law practice at our office with Steve Kristen. Steve is from the Public Defender's Office. He's been with us a little less than a year now, going on a year, so we focus on that area of the law. But generally, it is people who have been injured in some type of accident due to the negligence of another. Workers' compensation is a different sort of avenue or area of personal injury. Liability is never an issue, and of course Nick can talk about that. But just within the personal injury umbrella, there's lots of different type injury-related claims, from an automobile accident to a trucking accident to a what we call premises liability, a slip and fall incident in a retailer. There's also there's something called a weird legal term, dram shop litigation, which is essentially bar owner liability.
Okay.
There's dog bites that is an area of the law. There are boating accidents. There's just anything you can think of where someone has been injured and it's not their fault.
Right.
We handle, because again, what we pride ourselves on and like to do is to help people when they find themselves in a situation that they weren't expecting. So.
There's one time, Eric, you and I were talking about there was, unfortunately, a death that of some. I think it was like a firefighter here locally, and that was crazy. And you told me that it was that you guys can help navigate that all of those waters from start to finish. So it's not just a case where we want to hire a lawyer. And protect our rights for this one piece, where you guys have expertise in helping families navigate all of the waters.
That's right. What we like to tell people, and I say this a lot and sort of becomes repetitive, but unfortunately, our profession doesn't really have the best name or reputation out there, and I certainly can understand why sometimes. So we have to deal with that and dispelling those preconceived notions about what we do and why we do it. What people don't really realize and what they really need to know is that, when you contact us at Cavanaugh and Thickens, we want to help you deal with everything that you have to deal with because of what has happened to you. And we'll do it from start to finish. The most important thing you should do in an accident, after an accident, is call the authorities, report the accident to the police. Make sure that someone responds. Make sure that emergency medical personnel come and address your injuries. Make sure those things are taken care of. But the next thing you ought to do really is to call a lawyer, because we can help guide you through the next part of that process that you're going to have to deal with. It is going to be completely foreign to you. Talking to insurance companies, handling medical bills.
And they're in an emotional state during this thing too. Yeah. So you're able to take that emotion kind of out of play a little bit.
That's right. We want to take the heavy lifting off of you. We want to take all of the worry you have off of you and let you focus on getting better. That's the most important thing about this. Again, you're in a place you didn't expect to be, suffering injuries that are now going to affect your life, and the only thing you need to be worried about is you and your family. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we take, but there's just so much more to worry about. But the good thing is we do that for you.
Right.
Right. They're impacted because their income may be at jeopardy if they're in a car accident.
That's right.
They can't report to work. So what does that process look like? Because they're scared, they're confused, they've never navigated this process before. Like once they call, they schedule an appointment. What's kind of that onboarding process?
Well,
look like?
It's important to know that we don't charge anything to talk to you. We want to talk to you. We want to see if we can help you, and if we can't help you, we'll tell you. We're not there to try to deceive you in any way. And so you call us. We generally like you to come in. Mm-hmm. If the circumstances dictate, we're happy to come to you. We sit down with you. We learn about you, what you've got going on, what's happened to you, what your injuries are, how this has affected you in the immediacy. I mean, a lot of this stuff, Mike, you just don't know right off the bat. Like, you don't know, am I going to be out of work for a day? Am I going to be out of work for a month?
Right.
And so we want to get a full grasp of that, and that's important. And then we do our best to really explain the process to you, how this is going to work. And previously I mentioned, hey, the law is not speedy, justice is not speedy, and so we try to explain the process to you, because again, ultimately our goal is to get you to a place where you're made whole again. Right. And whole is a concept that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to people, but we want to get you back to a place where you can live your life again.
Right.
Back to your normal.
That's right. Back to your normal, whether it be where you were before or whatever your new normal is.
Right.
And you can't do that focused on all the nuances of the things that we have to handle and want to handle for you every day, which we do for everybody.
When you talk about it not being a speedy process, what's a time frame look like? And does it differ based on practice area or county or?
It does. It's not really county. A lot of the time frame is dictated by the seriousness of the accident, the amount of insurance available, the insurance company you might be dealing with, how serious your injuries are. Do they require long-term treatment? The comp process that when you're an injured worker is a lot different, and the time frames are a lot different. But you have in personal injury law, you have a pre-suit sort of process where you're just trying to see where you are and where you're headed and what your new normal looks like. And then if you're unable to get a case resolved, a claim resolved with the at-fault insurance company, which is who you're really dealing with, if we're unable to do that, then we go into a lawsuit. And not all cases go into a lawsuit, but some do. And that process can take anywhere from 12 to 18 months to 24 months, depending on a lot of factors. And that's just sort of hard to explain to people sometimes, that, hey, I know you got injured today, but 3 years down the road, we may still be dealing with this. And
right.
But again, it is important for us to make sure that you know what your new normal is, and that, most importantly, that you're compensated for that new normal.
Right. Are there like limits in our state on what that can look like?
There are, and that's a good question. And I'm assuming that what you mean by limits is like insurance limits. And insurance law in South Carolina and the amount of coverages people carry, they really need to do a class on it. And what they need to explain to you is South Carolina does have a minimum limits requirement. In fact, you're not supposed to operate a motor vehicle in South Carolina, own a motor vehicle in South Carolina that doesn't have minimum limits. And those minimum limits are $25,000 in liability coverage. You often hear it referred to as 25/50, 25 being per person, 50 being per accident, regardless of how many people are involved.
I mean, that seems really low based on what I see vehicle costs look like today.
It totally is. It completely is. And I tell people all the time, I say, you don't know who you're going to get in an accident with one day. And so you might get involved with an accident involved with someone who has $25,000 in coverage. You may get in an accident with someone who has $500,000 in coverage. Or you may get in an accident with someone who has no insurance because their insurance is lapsed. So it's important for us as drivers to get whatever insurances we feel is going to protect us, in fact, in case we're involved in an accident that's our fault. But more importantly, there's something called UIM, is how we refer to it, underinsured. It is an extra expenditure on your policy, but it's worth it. And it basically protects you against someone having no insurance or being underinsured.
And then if their insurance gets exhausted, am I correct that they then can tap into some of that underinsured?
That's right. You can go against your own policy. And people ask all the time, hey, well, is that going to make my rates go up? It may, but that's why you have it there. If you're worried about a $15, $20 increase, but you've got, lifetime injuries, it just needs to all be put in perspective. And that's one thing we try to help people understand.
Right.
So Nick, in the workers' comp world, I know that a lot of people call it workers' comp, right? Workers' compensation, job injury, hurt on the job, those types of things. What's kind of first thing that's going through those folks' minds when it comes to trying to, is it, I need to keep my job, or is it, oh, I'm worried about my job, or what's going through their minds?
Well, that is one factor that I've seen clients discuss, and even on the other side, a lot of times I would handle claims on the defense side where the workers' comp claimant did not have an attorney, and that's a lot of times one of the first questions I'll ask. If because I've reported this injury, am I going to potentially lose my job because of this? Now, sometimes in the workers' compensation settlement process, depending on the injury and the employer and carrier, a lot of times they will want to do what's called a full and final clincher settlement. And sometimes in order to enter into a settlement like that, the actual employee has to sign what's called a resignation release from employment. But generally, under the workers' compensation system, if it's a good relationship with the employer that the employee has, they'll attempt to settle on what's called a Form 16A settlement. And that actually has a very the same effect as if we were to go to trial in front of a workers' compensation commissioner.
Wow, that sounds very complex, which is good while we have an attorney on board. You're listening to The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. We'll be back in just a moment. Hey, welcome back to The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. Today, Mike and I have a guest on the show with us, Cavanaugh and Thickens, Nick, who handles the workers' comp side, Eric, who handles a lot of the personal injury side, and his business partner, Joe Thickens, handles a lot of the personal injury side. It's mainly a personal injury firm, as you just heard from the previous segment, but they really handle all types of things. And the personal injury sector, I guess, if you could say, is really large, right? I mean, from slip and fall to dog bites to Eric. I mean, Eric, we ran a dog bite social media ad, and it got a ton of comments. It was
Good as engagement.
Yeah, a lot of engagement.
Good and bad, and very strong
Opinions,
positions.
right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
very strong
yes,
opinions.
yes.
Don't talk about people's pets.
Right. Well, the thing is, and somebody said this to me, and it might even have been you, Matt, is that, Joe and I are both dog owners.
Right.
And I love my dog.
Right.
But the law is, to use an old coin and catchphrase, the law is the law. And South Carolina has a strict liability law on dog bites. And if your dog bites someone else, regardless of whether, regardless really of what happens, you're liable for that bite. There are a couple of nuances and defenses, but so it is an area. I just handled a fairly decent dog bite case, and when I say decent, it was a very sad case. A little girl got bit in the face. She was 2 years old, and she's got lifetime scarring, and she did nothing to provoke the dog. And it happened, and but again, one of those situations where the little girl, now 2, has to live the remainder of her life with this scarring, and the family found themselves in a place they didn't anticipate finding themselves in. So.
Yeah, I mean, who wants to be in those situations, right?
That's right.
You actually said it a little while ago too. You said that the reputation, or a stereotypical reputation of the law industry, it's like for some reason. And I'm only saying this in average, right? But an average person, for some reason, people don't like lawyers until you need them.
That's and yes,
It's kind of like the police.
That's right. Well, and not only do they not like lawyers until they need them, when the case is over, they go back to not liking them again. So, but look, I mean, we're people. I mean, I have I'm married. I have 2 daughters. I actually now have 3 daughters, and I'm just a regular person, and you're not going to find me all over the TV all the time and on every billboard in the city and state, because I like what I do, and I like to use the skills that I have acquired as an attorney. Most importantly, I like to get to know my clients.
Man, you just said a ton of things right there, right?
Right.
You said you like what you do. You talked about marketing and advertising in that statement. Man, I could go in all types of direction. Mm-hmm. But I do have a question for you. What really fires you up? Like within your industry, within your job, within your business, like what really is like, Oh, that was exciting. That really fired me up.
Well, on a daily basis, Gamecock athletics. But outside of that, what really fires me up is, I just enjoy practicing law. There's so many different areas of the law. Just sitting here while Nick and I both do personal injury work, it's very different in how it operates and the law, how the law applies. But there's litigation work, there's transactional work in the form of real estate closings, and we don't do any of that. There's business litigation, there's all kind of stuff. But I have chosen to focus on injuries because I like helping people, and I like trial work. I like depositions. I like I think
you told me you love building a case.
Right, I love building a case. It's fun. It's fun, and I want to be able to add value to someone's case. I don't want somebody to feel like I'm just sort of an assembly. I don't want to feel like an assembly line worker where I'm just going point to point to point for them. I want them to look at me and say, "Hey, Eric cares about me. Eric wants to help me, and Eric really added a lot of value to my case." And it's important to me.
That's cool.
Again, Matt, it's important to me at the end of a case, and not everybody does. Sometimes they want to slug me, but having somebody say, "You really helped me," and throwing their arms around your neck means a lot.
Yeah.
One thing I'll jump in is I've learned through some personal experiences with children that not all attorneys are created equal. Their passions aren't all aligned, and some are just checking the box. And they're going to look for the bare minimum for something, and that's what they're going to set their sight on, and they want to close it quick. And maybe that's the right approach in some cases, but I believe that no two attorneys are created equal, and the outcome for the customer is different.
That couldn't be truer. But I will say, I have a tremendous amount of respect for our profession, everybody in our profession, because I know we went to school for 3 years. We worked hard. I actually went to school later. I spent a lot of time away from my family. My wife was extremely supportive. My kids were extremely supportive. It's an enjoyable living, and I don't criticize anybody, but yes, not all lawyers are created equal, and what we pride ourselves on is we want to help you, we want to get you the best result, but a lot of times the best result is not getting your case closed as fast as we can get it closed.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So Nick, talk to me a little bit more about workers' comp, right? And we talked a little bit about not everybody think of as workers' comp, like I was injured on the job injuries, things of that nature. So people are really scared. You talked to us a little bit about that earlier, about the possibility of losing their job, especially if they report it, right? And so tell me the process of that. Like, so you get injured on a job, what happens? What should you do?
Sure. So when you're injured on a job, one of the most important things you can do first is, of course, to notify the employer that the injury has occurred.
Okay.
So workers' compensation is actually different from third-party liability stuff. It is actually a no-fault system. So what will happen is, as long as your injury occurred within the course and scope of your employment and arose out of your employment, it'll be covered under workers' compensation. So the first thing to do is always notify your employer that the injury occurred, and that way you can get medical treatment as soon as possible. And it also depends on how bad the actual injury is. If you need to go to the hospital right away, you need to make sure that your employer is sending you there. And there's also some notice requirements. In South Carolina, you are supposed to notify the employer within 90 days, but typically the notification is going to happen at the time that it actually occurs.
Right away. And so so does the employer call an ambulance or take you to a medical, or do you just do that on your own?
They can. It really just depends on the circumstances. I've seen it where clients will actually, a co-employee will drive them to the hospital. If it's bad enough, an ambulance can be called. It just really depends on the circumstances. But typically that stuff is going to be covered by the workers' compensation carrier. So it'll be charged under workers' compensation. It won't be charged under their own personal
And as soon
insurance.
as they make sure that they're okay, right? Their physical person is good.
That's right. Right.
Or if they're not good or whatever the case may be, they get medical attention. They should now call you. at this point, or?
Typically, yes. So a lot of times clients will call. A lot of times clients won't call until something happens with the carrier or the employer.
So later on,
when they're
that's
not
a lot of times,
right?
Okay.
When they're not getting the treatment that they are entitled to, or and specifically under workers' compensation, when you're out of work more than 7 days. We call it the 7-14-day rule. So after 7 days, you are entitled to receive temporary benefits. They're called temporary total disability benefits, in which that's 66 2/3% of your average weekly wage, which is calculated based on your prior wages.
Okay.
Which is significantly less than what someone's accustomed to making.
That's right. And in South Carolina, we also actually have maximum compensation rates, which change every single year. So, if you're a employee that makes a high wage or have multiple jobs, you can be limited by that maximum compensation rate as well. But typically, and I feel like sometimes clients do wait too long to contact an attorney, and they won't do that until maybe the relationship that they've established with the adjuster has gone south. And then it kind of creates a lot of infighting, and then that's when eventually the attorney can come in and step in.
Gotcha. Well, it is called insurance for a reason, right?
That's right.
People think it's like, and I've heard people say this because I've had friends that's got injured on the job, and they feel like it's me versus the employer.
That's right.
Where it really isn't, because that's the reason why the employer pays for insurance to help protect
Hopefully.
the employee from those types of scenarios. That's very interesting. That's good. What fires you up on a daily within a case? Like, what's your favorite part of that type of case?
Generally, what fires me up, I guess, is I'm like Eric. I love working a case up. What fires me up is when a lot of times insurance adjusters will send for evaluations of a claimant. They'll send them to like a real conservative doctor or something like that, and they're not recommending treatment that clearly is needed. And so then we explore options of possibly sending the client out for our own independent medical evaluation.
So you're able to help them really go through the process and get the right treatment. That's awesome. Hey, we're here with Cavanaugh Thickens on the Brainstorm with Matt and Mike, and we'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to the Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. Mike, we've had a good show so far. We have one more segment to go in this radio show and podcast and video. If you're watching on the brainstormradio.com, you can go down there and download a ton of resources, watch videos. We have our friends from Cavanaugh and Thickens, Eric Cavanaugh and Nick, who handles the workers' comp side over there. I just can't really pronounce Nick's last name, so instead of just absolutely killing it on live on the air here, I figured that I would just call you Nick.
That's fine.
That's okay. So Eric, let's talk about just marketing your firm, because we said it early on that when it comes to like just marketing a business, there's a lot of similarities that carry over from industry to industry and business to business. Talk to me about, over the course of time, back when you first started, how did you get cases, and how do you get cases today, and the difference between the two? And there's probably a lot of similarities, but there's still some differences as well.
There's a lot of merging, but it has changed. In the beginning, it was, you brought, if anybody you knew had a case, you just help them out.
You
take it. And
there was networking,
pretty much like that in every business.
Yeah, it's like, and that's never changed. I mean, you're still doing that today. But it has evolved, and what we do, there are a lot, unfortunately, I guess there's a lot of us lawyers out there.
Yeah.
Good,
it is
bad.
a very competitive field.
It's very, very competitive business, very competitive people, but there's a lot of us out there, and it dictates that we have to market. And there's all kinds of different types of marketing that we do and can be done, and our marketing has evolved. Like I said, in the beginning, we're just, hey, send us a case. Now we're still doing that, but we have a media presence. We have a relationship with Splash, and that relationship is now almost a year old. And I'm not plugging you, Matt, but I guess I am. Y'all have done a good job for us, and you've helped us develop a a message that we want to send, client-focused, results-oriented business that we have. We have a good social media presence. We have a great website. We try to be out there so people know who we are. And, one of the most important things you've told me in our relationship, because I don't have a marketing mind, but it's about developing a brand. And one thing y'all have really helped us do is develop a brand centered on who we really are.
Yeah.
And so we value that. And so, our social media marketing, our internet marketing, all that is important. We've done some billboards. We may do some TV in the future. So that's one very important part of our business in marketing our firm and letting people know who we are and what we do, and just to be seen. But the most important thing, the most important areas we get business from are, peer-to-peer marketing.
Yeah.
Other lawyers sending us business because they know that we're good at what we do. We'll focus on their cases. We'll focus on their clients, and we'll help their clients get to the point where their clients feel like that both of our law firms together have synergized to get them the best result. But perhaps the most important in marketing that we do, and the most important source of business is referrals from current clients.
Yeah.
That we do a good job for, that send us other people and say Eric or Joe or Nick or Steve has done a good job for me. And of course, those are high expectations to live up to.
Right.
But ultimately, it's very important. And I don't like marketing. It's not my. I am a people person. I am an extrovert. I'll talk your ear off. Lawyers in general like to talk your ear off. I think primarily because they like to hear themselves talk. But at the end of the day, I'd rather be. If you just gave me an option and said you don't have to do any of this, what are the things you'd rather do? I'd rather be working cases, fighting for my clients, practicing law, and just putting my arms around people on a daily basis.
Yeah, I love that. That. In that statement, you just talked about branding, and one of the biggest difference between good branding and great branding is when good branding is what happens is when they see your brand, they know who you are and what you do. That's very good branding. Great branding is when they need your services, they immediately think of you without even having to see your brand, right? That's great branding. And so
that's just reputation building.
Right.
You talked about those referrals from those customers, and that's so important today. 15, 20 years ago, the brand itself was primarily in control of the brand. And today, you can say we're great. We hold your hand through the process. We white glove service, whatever you want to call it. But if your service stinks, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. The consumer, the people you serve, are actually ultimately in control. They'll call you out on it, and they'll call you out on it quicker than they'll compliment you on a great job done. Right,
and I will say this, and I'd be remiss if I didn't, because we're only as good as the people who work with us every day. And started out just Joe and I, and we added some staff people in our current staff. I couldn't be happier with the people we have. Trevina Archer is our pre-litigation paralegal. She is wonderful. I don't really know how. She's almost been with me for 2 years now, a little over 2 years, and I just don't know what we'd do without her. Clients love her, probably love her more than me, love her more than Joe, love her more than everybody. So she's wonderful. She handles all our pre-litigation cases. My personal paralegal is Justine Tinsley. She's new with me. She's been with us a little while, but she handles all my litigation cases, and she's just phenomenal. Julie White is Joe's paralegal, and she is you just can't say enough about Julie. She's just wonderful, and she really is she knows how to run a case, and it is very important. And we just hired Natasha Burns up in reception, and of course we have Nick, and we couldn't be happier to have Nick aboard, and we have Steve Kristen, and Steve is Steve's been an excellent addition to our staff. So we're only as good as the people that we work with, and those people, if I didn't mention them,
takes a great team.
I wouldn't be a good business owner or boss if I didn't tell you that my staff really is what makes us tick at the end of the day.
Also, Eric, you just said something a minute ago as well about just staying in touch and getting referrals from your past clients, right? Your current and past clients. and your friends, people of that nature. So referral-based marketing. We had a question come in on our Facebook page, Mike, earlier, and I forgot to answer that question. And the question is if there's just one thing that you could do in a business that would truly help your business, what would it be? And it really is marketing and advertising to your current and past customer base. It's amazing how many people want to go and get more clients. Like, I want more clients, I want more customers, but they just completely ignore talking to all the people that's already trust them and love them and like them.
Yeah, we call it kind of farming the field you already have, and making sure that you cultivate that crop, and that crop will reproduce more.
Well, your hope is your current clients will never need you again, and I'm
Right.
sure their hope is the same. Well, our hope is not that they won't need us again, but their hope is they won't need you again.
Right.
But yes, they are a great referral source. Remember, they know tons and tons of people. They connect to tons and tons of people on social media.
Right.
And I mean, odds are they know somebody or others who need your services.
And what we find is when people have circumstances, they attract other people who find themselves in a similar circumstance.
That's right.
They become almost an advocate for whatever that cause is. So
That's
if they've been injured on the job, they may be on social media sharing their experience and making sure that other people navigate that process well when they find themselves in a similar circumstance.
The best thing a past client, current client or past client can say to a potential client is immediately call Eric, call Joe, call Nick, call Steve, because you need them. They can help you, and you need to call them now.
Yeah.
So I got one last question for you. And it's kind of a funny question because you have to take competition out of play. Like, forget about competitors and competition.
Okay.
All right. So if this was a mentoring scenario, right? So if you were going to mentor somebody and somebody was just coming out of law school and they wanted to open up their own firm, give me one thing you would give them as far as advice goes.
Oh man, that's,
I stumped you.
you did stump me.
What would you tell them to do?
Be an extrovert. No, I mean just make sure you're doing. I mean, if this is what you want to do, make sure you're doing what you want to do.
Oh, I love that. So
And
love doing what it is.
Love doing what you want to do, because ultimately, if you don't like it, you're not going to be successful at it.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's actually the best answer that I could even think of.
That's for anybody, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter
Us
if you're
lawyers
an
are smart
attorney or-
people. Remember now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was off the cuff too, right? That was off the cuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I really do appreciate you, and I appreciate our relationship with Cavanaugh Thickens, but I appreciate you guys coming on our show today, Nick, workers' comp, right, and Eric, personal injury, and your whole squad there, personal injury, and anything they could do to help people. Thank you again for coming on. Thank you for listening to The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike.